Begin tonight with what may be the antidote to the 12ers, an undercovered but potent satirical sidebar to the protest march in Washington this weekend, which tried to link 9/11 to an unfocused omnium gatherum of conservative grievances with the Obama administration. They were against health care reform, against the stimulus package, against bailouts, the Federal Reserve, Marxism, Nazism, against the president being secretly allegedly foreign even though he was born in Hawaii, against all media except Fox News. It was diffuse. There was lots of anger toward President Obama generally. Obama as Hitler was a very popular sign choice. Nancy Pelosi, it turns out, also not very popular with the 9/12ers. Honestly, the big 9/12 rally sort of went as expected. Lots of people showed up. They said what they intended to say. The event got plenty of TV coverage, especially on one cable network in particular. On the fringes of the march, though, was one relatively poorly received counter-protest by a group calling itself Billionaires for Wealth Care, a self-proclaimed grassroots network of health insurance CEOs, industry lobbyists, talk show hosts, and others profiting off of our broken healthcare system. They say, "We are not a political, religious, or even particularly well-organized group. We're simple folk, thrilled profiteers pouring out of our corner offices to dance on the grave of change. We'll do whatever it takes to ensure another decade where your pain is our gain." In front of what appeared to be mostly utterly bewildered 9/12ers, the Billionaires for Wealth Care drank champagne, smoked big fat cigars, looked pretty awesome in their tuxedos and evening wear, and they held signs that said things like, "Let them eat Advil," or "Warning, affordable health care may cause severe loss of profits." They held signs that said, "Fight socialism, end Medicare now," and, perhaps my favorite, "Cigna Palin 2012. And after thanking the 9/12 protesters for their presumably unwitting solidarity with the billionaires set the whole thing to song.
Rejoice and let us glory in the profits we attain by rationing the remedies for suffering and pain. And no one's gonna mess with all our monetary gain. Let's save the status quo. If a healthcare corporation never faces regulation, we'll be brimming with elation. Let's save the status quo. In every other wealthy nation, healthcare is a right. But not here in America. No, not without a fight. We're fighting for the right to monstrous profits day and night. Let's save the status quo. If a healthcare corporation never faces regulation, we'll be brimming with elation. Let's save the status quo.
An alliance that one part of it doesn't understand what it means. Billionaires for Wealth Care find the antidote to the fact-free scream and holler syndrome that has disabled the debate about what to do to fix health care. When those arguing against reforming health care are doing so by saying it's a secret plot to put Republicans in concentration camps and to kill old people, and that if you squint and you hold the 10th Amendment up to the light just so, it might make it unconstitutional for the government to even have any health policies at all, when that's the character of one side of the debate, maybe singing satirical songs to the tune of the Battle Hymn of the Republic is the most appropriate way to counter that. I mean, what else is working at this point? Joining us now is Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont. He is a member of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, which is in the midst of all this, trying to bring about the most important domestic policy legislation in half a century. Senator Sanders, thanks very much for coming back on the show.
Good to be with you, Rachel.
The new chairman of the Senate Health Committee, Senator Tom Harkin of Iowa, said yesterday that a health care bill with a public option will be passed by Congress by Christmas. I have to ask you if you share his optimism.
Well, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that happens. Clearly, we have a health care system which is disintegrating in this country. So many people uninsured, underinsured, costs are soaring. And what the public option is about is not only giving the people a choice about whether they want a private insurance program or whether they want a Medicare-type program, it also is a mechanism for cost containment so that the private insurance companies simply cannot continue to raise rates as high as they want. They're going to have to compete with a Medicare-type program.
One of the reasons I wanted to highlight this satirical counter-protest to the 9/12 folks this weekend was because of that issue of the folks who are profiting from the system being broken the way it is now. And it's one of those things that's maybe hard to articulate at a level of detail that can really compete with the hollering that we're hearing against healthcare reform on the right. But you've talked really specifically about the financial pressure that healthcare industry lobbyists are putting on members of Congress every day, the amount of money they're spending to influence this debate. And should we just expect that to increase further as a final bill nears debate on the Senate floor?
Absolutely. Look, we are spending close to $3 trillion a year on healthcare. The private insurance companies make huge profits. Their CEOs receive millions and millions of dollars in compensation packages, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to do anything that affects their profits. But Rachel, one of the things that disturbs me very much about this whole process is, you know, we're seeing a lot of anger out there. And the truth is that people have a right to be angry. The fact that Wall Street has plunged this country into such a deep recession so that we're looking today at 17% of the American workforce, which is either unemployed or underemployed. People are angry, and they've got a right to be angry. And what disturbs me very much is that you see many of these right-wing folks, they're not angry at the insurance companies that are ripping us off. They're not angry at the drug companies, which are charging us the highest rates in the industrialized world. They're not angry at the Wall Street guys who've made hundreds of millions of dollars and then through their greed and illegal behavior caused this deep recession. What the Republicans have managed to do is to turn that anger against what? Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the attempt to try to make sure that every person in this country has health care as a right. That's a pretty sad state of affairs, and I think we've got to get a handle on that and say to people, you have a right to be angry. You should be angry, but take your anger out against the people who have caused the economic distress this country is now experiencing.
In terms of political pragmatism, though, I mean, you've served in Washington a long time. You've shepherded a lot of legislation through the most, you know a lot about the most arcane details of congressional rules. I have to ask you, if we're looking at the substantive possibilities here for health reform, are you actually a little bit comforted by the fact that the opposition to it is so inchoate, it's so nonspecific, it's so not on topic? This march this weekend was maybe about health reform more than it was about anything else, but it was totally incoherent and emotional. And I wonder if that actually means the prospects for reform are better than they would be if the opposition was more articulate.
Rachel, I think you're right. This demonstration and a lot of the right-wing extremism that we're seeing, frankly, has nothing to do with health care. It is people who are hurting, they're angry, and their anger is coming out against the government. I find it quite interesting that now they're concerned about the very serious national debt that we have, but they weren't concerned about the tax breaks that went to billionaires. So it is kind of a broad anger which is being focused against the government rather than against the very powerful private special interests which have caused so many serious problems in this country. But I agree with you. The fact that they really are not specific and they're just taking out their anger. Obama's not born in America. Obama's a communist. Obama's a Nazi. You know, Obama shouldn't be allowed to talk to school children. I think in many ways that makes our job a little bit easier.
Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, thanks very much for your time tonight, sir.
Thank you.